Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we step inside one of the most disturbing, manipulative, and shocking cult scandals of the modern era, a story that hid behind self-help seminars, personal growth promises, and the glamour of Hollywood, yet secretly operated as a system of control, exploitation, and psychological domination. This is the chilling true story of NXIVM, the cult that trapped celebrities, powerful individuals, and everyday people alike. Our story begins in the late 1990s with a man named Keith Raniere, a self-proclaimed genius who presented himself as a philosopher, scientist, and humanitarian visionary. Claiming he had discovered the key to unlocking human potential, he founded an organization called NXIVM, marketed as an executive success program designed to help people overcome fears, improve ethics, and achieve personal excellence. On the surface, NXIVM looked legitimate: expensive workshops, motivational language, charts, credentials, and endorsements, but beneath that polished exterior was a deeply calculated system of psychological manipulation. Raniere positioned himself as the smartest man in the room, encouraging followers to see him as a moral authority whose teachings could not be questioned, slowly creating emotional dependence disguised as self-improvement. As NXIVM grew, it attracted wealthy investors, business leaders, and eventually Hollywood figures, including actresses, heirs to powerful families, and influencers who gave the organization credibility and visibility. High-profile supporters promoted NXIVM publicly, drawing more people in, while internally the structure became more secretive, hierarchical, and controlling. Members were encouraged to devote increasing amounts of time, money, and loyalty to the group, cutting off outside criticism by labeling skeptics as negative, unethical, or emotionally damaged. Over time, NXIVM developed inner circles that operated on stricter rules, and one of the darkest of these was a secret subgroup known as DOS, short for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, meaning master over the obedient female companions. DOS was presented as a women-only empowerment group, but in reality, it functioned as a system of coercion, secrecy, and control, where members were required to provide personal, collateral, damaging information, private messages, or compromising material, to ensure obedience and silence. Under the guise of discipline and growth, women were pressured into extreme obedience to their masters, unaware that Keith Raniere was secretly at the top of the hierarchy. What made NXIVM especially dangerous was that it didn't rely on isolation in remote locations like traditional cults. Instead, it operated openly in cities, using modern branding, legal language, and celebrity involvement to appear respectable. Psychological pressure replaced physical confinement. Members were trained to doubt their own instincts, reinterpret discomfort as weakness, and see suffering as progress. Many were convinced that leaving meant failure, moral collapse, or betrayal of a higher purpose. As time passed, cracks began to appear. Former members started speaking out about emotional abuse, financial exploitation, manipulation, and control, while investigative journalists uncovered disturbing patterns behind NXIVM's operations. In 2018, federal authorities arrested Keith Raniere, and the trial that followed revealed the true scale of deception behind the organization. Testimonies exposed how NXIVM used branding, hierarchy, secrecy, and fear to maintain power, and how even intelligent, successful individuals were gradually conditioned into obedience. Several high-ranking members were convicted, while others distanced themselves from the organization, claiming they had been misled. The case forced the public to confront an uncomfortable truth: cults don't always look extreme or obvious. Sometimes they wear suits, speak softly, and promise success. NXIVM became a powerful example of how charisma, authority, and psychological conditioning can override logic, critical thinking, and self-preservation, even in educated and privileged circles. Families were torn apart, lives were reshaped, and trust was shattered, leaving behind victims still healing from years of emotional manipulation. Today, NXIVM stands as a warning about modern cults: how they evolve, how they hide, and how easily they can operate in plain sight when wrapped in the language of empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of NXIVM is not just about one man or one organization. It is about the human desire for purpose, belonging, and guidance, and how those desires can be exploited when power goes unquestioned. It reminds us that real growth never demands silence, fear, or surrender of identity. Thank you for joining me on this deep investigation into one of Hollywood's most disturbing cult scandals. Until next time, stay aware, stay questioning, and stay safe.